Chris Butt from New Zealand is 5th on Supers. Todd from New Zealand is 2nd on Supers. That Canadian guy is P4. Chris Butt is P2. Best lap is a 1:36.819. That Canadian guy in Honda hairpin is 5th. Chris Butt is P2. That Canadian guy in MG is 5th. Dave B. Racing from South Africa is 4th on Supers. Todd from New Zealand is 3rd. Best lap is a 1:38.237. KYLL Hanan is 1st. Best lap is a 1:35.642. Todd in Southern Loop is 3rd. KYLL Hanan in Honda hairpin is 1st. Chris Butt is P3. KYLL Hanan is 2nd. Jason Short from New Zealand in Honda hairpin is P5 on Supers. Best lap is a 9:58.723. Todd is P4. Jason Short in MG is 5th. KYLL Hanan in Lukey Heights is P2. Jason Short in Southern Loop is P5. Dave B Racing in Swan Corner is P6. KYLL Hanan in Casey Stoner is P2 on Supers. Jason Short in MG is P5. KYLL Hanan is P2. Jason Short in Southern Loop is P1. Best lap is a 1:33.942. That Canadian guy is P2. Best lap is a 1:34.251. Dave B Racing in Swan Corner is P6 on Supers. Jason Short is P1 on Supers. Todd in Honda Hairpin is 4th. Best lap is a 1:36.508. The qualification session is at V8SC in Nunn, Australia. Todd from New Zealand is P2 on Supers. Jason Short from New Zealand is 3rd on Supers. The Race Dictator from New Zealand in Southern Loop is 3rd on Supers. Jason Short in Siberia is P1. Dave B Racing from South Africa in Siberia is 5th on Supers. KYLL Hainan from New Zealand in MG is 4th on Supers. Jason Short is P1. Jason Short is up 10.34 in Casey Stoner. Jason Short is up 10.99 in Lukey Heights. Jason Short is up 11.04 in Swan Corner. Jason Short improved his P1 with a 134.491. The race dictator from New Zealand in Gardner Strait is 2nd. The race dictator improved his 2nd with a 134.788. .297 off pole. Dave B Racing in Swan Corner is P5 up 27.87 on Supers. Jason Short in Honda Hairpin is first up 0.38. Jason Short is up 0.67 in Lukey Heights. Jason Short is up 0.43 in Swan Corner. Jason Short is provisional pole with a 133.870. 5 minutes remaining in the session. That Canadian guy from Canada in MG is third up 0.98 on Supers. That Canadian guy improved his P2 with a 133.965. .095 off pole. That Canadian guy is up 0.02 in Dewan Corner. KYLL Hainan is P5. KYLL Hainan improved his fourth with a 135.966. 2.096 off pole. Chris Butt from New Zealand in Siberia is 5th up 1.20 on Supers. Best lap is a 137.138. 3.268 off pole. Jason Short from New Zealand in Swan Corner is first up 0.14. Jason Short is provisional pole with a 1:33.707. The race dictator in Gardner Straight is P3. The race dictator improved is second with a 1:33.812. 0.105 off pole. Chris Butt in Swan Corner is fifth up 1.66. Chris Butt improved is P4 with a 1:35.564. 1.857 off pole. That Canadian guy is provisional pole with a 1:33.508. That Canadian guy in Southern Loop is first up 0.10. Todd is sixth. That Canadian guy in Casey Stoner is first up 0.14. Todd in Honda hairpin is P6 up 1.07. Best lap is a 1:36.906. 3.398 off pole. Todd is up 1.31 in Lukey Heights. Dave B. Racing in Southern Loop is P7 up 0.44. Todd is sixth. That Canadian guy in Honda hairpin is first up 0.13. The race dictator is P3 up 0.10. Chris Butt is fourth. Best lap is a 1:35.564. 2.056 off pole. The qualifying session is now in overtime. The race dictator in Honda hairpin is P3. Best lap is a 1:33.812. 0.304 off pole. Jason Short from New Zealand is P2 up 2.73. Kyll Hainan is P5 up 15.73. Todd is P6. Broadcast bot is 20th on softs. The race session is at V8SC in Nunn, Australia. That Canadian guy is P1. Jason Short from New Zealand is P2 on Supers. The race dictator from New Zealand is third on Supers. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. That Canadian guy from Canada in Dewan Corner is second on Supers. The race dictator is P3. Todd from New Zealand in Honda Hairpin is 5th on Supers. Todd is now P2. Chris Butt from New Zealand in Siberia is 3rd on Supers. The race dictator in Lukey Heights is 4th. Todd is 4th. The race dictator in Gardner Strait is 3rd. The race dictator is now 2nd. Jason Short exiting pits on Supers. Jason Short is 5th on Supers, 3.4 behind Todd. The race dictator is 2nd, 0.5 behind Chris Butt. The race dictator passed Chris Butt for 1st. Chris Butt in Siberia is 2nd, 0.1 behind the race dictator. Jason Short on lap 2 is 5th, 2.0 behind Todd. Chris Butt in Swan Corner on lap 2 is 2nd, 1.6 behind the race dictator. Jason Short in Gardner Straight is 5th, 1.2 behind Todd. Todd in Southern Loop on lap 3 is 5th, battling Jason Short. Chris Butt is P2, 2.9 ahead of that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy was 3.5 faster last lap. That Canadian guy in MG is 3rd, 2.4 behind Chris Butt. Chris Butt in Gardner Straight is P2. Best lap is a 1:37.569. 3.452 off the fastest lap. 10 minutes remaining in the session. That Canadian guy in Southern Loop is P3, 1.6 behind Chris Butt. That Canadian guy was 2.2 faster last lap. Chris Butt in Honda Hairpin is P2, 0.9 ahead of that Canadian guy. Chris Butt lost second to that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy is P2. Todd from New Zealand in Siberia is P5, 0.3 behind Chris Butt. That Canadian guy in MG is 2nd. Best lap is a 1:33.520. Todd in MG is 5th, 0.3 behind Chris Butt. Jason Short in Swan Corner is 4th, 0.4 ahead of Todd. Jason Short is now 1st. Todd is 2nd, 0.5 behind Jason Short. The race dictator exiting pits on Supers. Chris Butt exiting pits on Supers. That Canadian guy in Southern Loop is 4th, 1.9 behind the race dictator. Chris Butt is 5th. Best lap is a 1:35.710. 2.190 off the fastest lap. That Canadian guy is P4, 0.9 behind the race dictator. That Canadian guy is now 3rd. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P4, 2.0 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy is second. The race dictator in Gardner Strait is P4 on Supers, 4.3 behind Chris Budd. Chris Budd from New Zealand in Southern Loop is P3, 3.9 ahead of the race dictator. The race dictator in Honda Hairpin is P4, 3.4 behind Chris Budd. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Chris Budd in Lukey Heights is third, 3.1 ahead of the race dictator. Todd exiting pits on Supers. The race dictator is fourth. Chris Budd from New Zealand is third. That Canadian guy in Honda Hairpin is second. Chris Budd in Siberia on lap 7 is P3, 2.9 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy in Lukey Heights is second. The race dictator in Lukey Heights is P4. The race dictator passed Chris Budd for P3. Chris Budd from New Zealand is fourth. That Canadian guy is second. The race dictator on lap 8 is third. Chris Budd in Honda Hairpin is P4. The race dictator in MG is third. Chris Butt is fourth. The race dictator in Southern Loop is P3. Chris Butt in Southern Loop is fourth. The leader has just finished the race. Jason Short finished P1. Todd is fifth. Todd finished P5. That Canadian guy finished second. Dave B. Racing from South Africa finished P6. The race dictator is third. The race dictator finished P3. Chris Butt finished P4. Broadcast bot is 8th. The race session is at V8SC in non-Australia. Dave B. Racing from South Africa is first on Supers. Todd from New Zealand is P2 on Supers. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P3 on Supers. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Chris Butt is now third. Chris Butt is now P5. The race dictator from New Zealand in Dewan Corner is P2 on Supers. Todd is third. The race dictator in Honda hairpin is second. Chris Butt is P4. The race dictator is second. Jason Short from New Zealand in Swan Corner is third on Supers. The race dictator in Dewan Corner is second on Supers, 0.1 behind Dave B Racing. Jason Short exiting pits on Supers. KYLL Hainan from New Zealand in Southern Loop is P4 on Supers, 1.4 behind that Canadian guy. Dave B Racing on lap 2 is P2, 0.8 behind the race dictator. Todd in Honda hairpin is P6, 1.9 behind Chris Butt. Todd lost P6 to KYLL Hainan. Dave B Racing is second, 0.9 behind the race dictator. Chris Butt in MG is P5, 2.8 behind Jason Short. Chris Butt lost 5th to KYLL Hainan. Dave B Racing is second, 2.2 behind the race dictator. Todd entering the pits is 7. Todd is 7. KYLL Hainan in Southern Loop is P5. Dave B Racing in MG on lap 3 is second, 2.4 behind the race dictator. The race dictator was 2.0 faster last lap. Jason Short in MG on lap 3 is P4, 3.8 behind that Canadian guy. Todd exiting pits on Supers. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Dave B Racing in Gardner Straight is second, 0.6 behind the race dictator. Jason Short is P3, 1.0 behind Dave B Racing. Dave B Racing from South Africa is second, 0.1 ahead of Jason Short. Jason Short in Southern Loop is third on Supers, 0.2 behind Dave B Racing. Jason Short was 13.0 faster last lap. Chris Butt exiting pits on Supers. Dave B Racing in Southern Loop is second, 0.4 ahead of Jason Short. Jason Short was 13.0 faster last lap. Dave B Racing lost P2 to Jason Short. Jason Short is P2, 0.4 ahead of Dave B Racing. Jason Short lost second to Dave B Racing. That Canadian guy from Canada in Casey Stoner is P5 on Supers, 0.6 behind Kyll Hanen. Dave B Racing is P2 on Supers, 0.6 behind the race dictator. That Canadian guy in Honda hairpin is P5, 1.0 behind Kyll Hanen. Kyll Hanen was 17.2 faster last lap. Jason Short is P3, 0.6 behind Dave B Racing. Dave B Racing in Siberia is P2, 0.7 ahead of Jason Short. Jason Short is third, 0.2 behind Dave B Racing. Dave B Racing on lap 4 is second, 0.3 behind the race dictator. Jason Short is second on Supers, 0.1 behind Dave B Racing. Jason Short passed Dave B Racing for P1. Dave B Racing is P2, 0.4 ahead of Kyll Hanen. The race dictator exiting pits on Supers. Dave B Racing lost P3 to that Canadian guy. Dave B Racing lost 5th to Chris Butt. That Canadian guy is third. Chris Butt in Honda hairpin is 5th, 0.6 behind Todd. Kyll Hanen is P2, 0.5 ahead of that Canadian guy. Todd is fourth. Best lap is a 1:43.588. 8.850 off the fastest lap. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Kyll Hanen in Lukey Heights is second, 0.5 ahead of that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy in MG is P3. Best lap is a 140.773. 6.035 off the fastest lap. KYLL Hanen in Swan Corner is second, 0.5 ahead of that Canadian guy. Todd is P3 on Supers, 0.7 ahead of Chris Budd. KYLL Hanen exiting pits on Supers. The race dictator in Southern Loop is P4, 0.6 behind Todd. Chris Budd in Honda Hairpin is P5 on Supers, 1.0 behind the race dictator. The race dictator was 17.4 faster last lap. The race dictator from New Zealand in Siberia is fourth, 0.4 behind Todd. Chris Budd in Lukey Heights is fifth, 0.7 behind the race dictator. The race dictator is P4, 0.4 behind Todd. The race dictator was 16.7 faster last lap. Chris Budd in Gardner Strait is P5, 0.9 behind the race dictator. The race dictator from New Zealand in Southern Loop is fourth, 0.4 behind Todd. Chris Budd in Honda Hairpin is P5. Best lap is a 137.130. 2.687 off the fastest lap. Chris Budd is now fourth. That Canadian guy is second, 1.4 behind Jason Short. Chris Budd in MG is P4 on Supers, 1.0 behind the race dictator. That Canadian guy from Canada is P2, 1.7 behind Jason Short. Chris Budd in Southern Loop is P4, 2.6 behind the race dictator. That Canadian guy is second on Supers, 2.4 behind Jason Short. Chris Budd is fourth, 4.0 ahead of Todd. Chris Budd was 5.3 faster last lap. KYLL Hanen entering the pits is seventh. KYLL Hanen exiting pits on Supers. leader has just finished the race. Jason Short finished first. That Canadian guy finished P2. The race dictator finished P3. Chris Butt finished P4. Todd finished P5. Dave B Racing is P6. Dave B Racing finished 6th. KYLL Hanan is P7. Broadcast bot is 8th. Jason Short from New Zealand is P1 on Supers. Todd from New Zealand is first on Supers. Jason Short is first. Todd is P2. Jason Short in Swan Corner is P1. Todd is second. Jason Short is first. Best lap is a 1:34.370. Todd is second. Best lap is a 12:25.711. Jason Short in MG is first. Todd in Siberia is P2. Jason Short from New Zealand in Southern Loop is first. Best lap is a 1:33.769. Todd in Swan Corner is second on Supers. Jason Short from New Zealand is first. Todd is P2. Best lap is a 1:44.667.